how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond.
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't lie!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're gonna get.
For this episode, I sit down with Bobbie Pinz, wig designer extraordinaire, and we cover it all, from his intro into wig design, performing prior to wig design, projects he's worked on, projects he's working on, lessons learned along the way, a little bit of the way he names some of the wigs in his office. The environment we talked in was so fascinating because all of his product is right there before us as we are chatting, and it was quite a lot to take in. So he breaks down a little bit of what we're looking at and staring at among so much more. So I hope you enjoy this episode and keep on keeping on. We're back. I'm Clayton Howe, and today with me, in person, in his office, in Midtown, Bobbie Clifton Zlotnick, a.k.a. Bobbie Pinz.
Howdy.
Bobbie, thank you for taking this time on this beautiful Friday morning.
I know, Friday. What's that?
There's no Friday in our world.
No,
there's no weekend.
It's constantly Monday for me.
Oh,
every day.
Goodness. So we met doing Kinky Boots at the
Yes, we
Hangar
did.
Theater. We just got back from that.
Yep.
You were doing wigs.
Yes, I did the wigs and the her.
And the her.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ran into each other, of course, Ace Young, Diana DeGarmo's,
Yep.
Diana's concert release.
Yep.
We were chatting
Which was
about,
amazing.
It was incredible.
If you guys don't have Gemini, the album, you need to get it right now. Hashtag plug, hashtag not sponsored.
Legit. She did not
Legit.
pay us.
No,
This is-
she didn't. No.
We'll
Well,
talk
she
to her.
paid me. That's because I did her hair.
He did. And that hair looked great.
Thank you.
Where was the inspiration for that? What did that come from?
It was inspired by her real hair, actually.
For real?
Yeah, like I was leaving for tour. I was gone for a month, and she was in town, and I knew she wanted a wig for her concert.
Yeah.
So she came to the studio, and I measured her head and did all of the stuff that you do to make a custom wig. And then I took out my big box of hair, and I held up all the bright, fun colors I had against her hair so that we were able to match it as best as we could to what she normally has her hair like every day.
Yeah.
But then we did add some like brighter, more fun colors to it just so that from stage it would pop a little more.
I was seeing purple.
Yeah, it was purple. It was, I think, 13 different colors, and like purple, pink, green, blue, turquoise, teal, brown. It was like 13 different colors, I think.
And it was like, I don't know anything about hairstyles, so please don't get offended when I say
won't.
certain things. It was like high and tight. It was right up
Yes.
there. It was
yeah,
right
it
around
was it was up off
lot
the
of
neck.
volume.
She had a lot of costume changes. She had a lot of head whipping around, and she was like, I want it to be a helmet.
Yes.
And I was like, I can do that for you.
And it was so long. You showed me a picture before you
Yes.
did it up, and that thing was
It
2.5
was-
feet long.
2.5 feet of irresistible tubular hair. So it was probably, I think, 24 inches long before
Wow.
I chopped it.
Okay.
So like that reach, well, she's also tiny,
Yeah.
like she's pocket sized. So it was down past her waist. And then I chopped it to like her ribs.
Yeah.
And then I just styled it up because I didn't want to cut it that short. She wanted it like collarbone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to cut it yet. So I left it long and put it in an updo, and then it'll probably live like that for a minute.
I love it. Where did you two meet?
How did Diana and I meet?
Yeah.
Through Trisha Tangui. Do you know Trisha Tangui? Oh, girl. Google her. She can wail. She can sing. She's on the Cats tour. She's the Grisabella standby.
Okay, yeah.
And when I do Let It Go in drags, I use her version from when she did Disney on Classic in Tokyo.
Oh my goodness.
but
Who
they-
hasn't done that?
Right?
hearing it.
Everybody
Yeah.
does it.
Okay.
And it's like, the thing I love about Disney on Classic is they put all the videos of the shows up on YouTube.
Yeah.
And every year it's the same song, the same exact shots, but the singer's different.
Yes. And it's a friend.
And it's a
another
friend.
Facebook
It's like
friend.
somebody else you know, and you're like, oh, cute.
I love.
I talked to him on Grindr. Now he's singing. Great. Like,
How long have you been doing her and wigs?
how long have I been doing her and wigs? Like my whole life, really.
Yeah.
I was like the gayest child ever, and so I had a lot of dolls and Barbies, American Girl. I had those like creepy cosmetology heads that you practice on when you're in beauty school.
Yeah.
And so I always loved playing with hair. And I would braid them and I'd curl them and I'd try to cut them or try to bleach them or whatever. So it was always in my mind that I wanted to play with hair, but I also wanted to be an actor. So it was kind of, I didn't realize there was a way to sort of combine two of them. Like I just, as an 11-year-old kid, you go see a show and you're not thinking that they're wearing wigs. You're not thinking that that's not really their hair. You're thinking, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I want to tap dance.
Yeah.
So
how long were you performing before you decided, hey, I'm going to pursue this full time?
I was, the first show I was ever in, I think I was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And then the last show that I was in, I was 23.
Okay.
So 12 years then, if the math is correct. Yeah. But when I was in high school, especially, I would be in shows, but I'd be helping the girls with their hair and makeup while I'm in the show.
Of course.
And the same thing in college. Like, I remember I was in Sweeney Todd. I was playing the Beetle. And then I also did all of our wigs.
Yeah.
And there were only 5 or 6 wigs because it's Sweeney Todd. It's not that difficult. But doing both. And then I had the same thing. I was in right at the same time I was doing that. I had just ended Seussical, where I played Mr. Mayor, where I also did all of our wigs.
So I'm going to be jumping around a lot, and I'm
it's
curious,
fine.
how long does it take to style one wig? I know it depends
How
on the
long?
style.
Yeah.
It depends on whether or not you're building it.
Yeah.
Like the longest you've spent on one.
The longest I've spent on styling just one singular wig,
Yeah.
nothing else added into it. Probably just a couple hours. I'm pretty quick. I set really fast. I can style relatively fast, especially if it's something that I've already done before.
Yeah.
If it's something that I do all the time, like I have kind of signature finger waves that I do on pretty much everything. I try to sneak a little finger wave into any wig that I can. And so
A couple hours.
it would take me a couple hours, but like doing like a finger wave, like from like teased out to smooth is like not even 20 minutes.
Okay.
But like getting it teased and getting that done can take a while depending on how long it is, how thick it is, whatever. But yeah, between 20 minutes to half an hour to a couple hours.
And when you're working on a show, what's the most wigs you've had to do for one production?
Personally, or like that I've seen like in my times?
Oh, yes. So I like those both answers.
Okay.
So personally,
the biggest show that I think I have ever done was probably the first time I did Hairspray, which was at PCPA in Santa Maria, California. And I think it was 75 wigs total.
holy crap.
Yeah. And luckily PCPA at the time had like an incredible wig stock. And that's how I kind of got the idea to organize my wig stock the way I have it, because everything was by number. You could search, like, basically they'd print off a show that said Music Man, and they'd write the cast and they'd write what wig they were wearing in each role. So if I went back and looked at production shots from 5 or 6 years ago from, Music Man, I could be like, hey, I like the wig that Marion's wearing. Do we still have that? And I could go in this book and find it and be like, oh, there's the wig. Great. I'll use it.
Oh my goodness.
So luckily they had this great system in place, and they
Yeah.
also had such a big stock for me to pull from.
Yeah.
I did end up building several wigs for them. That was also back before I really knew that much about building. Just fake it till you make it.
Hello.
But yeah, 70, probably 70, 75-ish. And then the most amount of wigs I've seen in one show myself would probably be Motown on Broadway. There were, I mean, this is years ago, so now it's getting fuzzy.
Right. Give or
and
take 5 or 10 wigs.
Give or take 5 or 10 wigs. But there were 8 hairdressers. And in the show every night, I think originally was around 200 wigs a show. And then I think they might have cut it down to, like, by the time it closed, maybe like 150, 160. I don't remember exact numbers.
Yeah.
But then with swings and understudies and everything, there were like close to 400 wigs in that room. Yeah, like, do you know Dionne Figgins?
Yes.
Yes. Love her. Adore
Yeah.
her. She was our original dance captain and swing and Diana Ross cover. She had 40 wigs in Motown.
She had her own room.
She had her own 2 shelves.
Oh, my
40 wigs. Diana Ross alone has 12 on Broadway. She had 12 wigs.
Holy.
And there were times where it'd be half hour and we'd be putting the wigs on, and at 15 minutes Diana Ross would call out, that's a 24 wig switch out right there. And they're not just in the room, they're preset all around the building because she quick changes every 2 seconds. So you have to run around the building grabbing and switching out all of your wigs.
And you made it, or no?
I mean, I wasn't that track, luckily, but we all just like, the call came, literally the understudy was in the room, got her wig on, pinned, walked out of the room, blah, 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 da, 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 Diana Ross is out. She's on now. She walks back in the room and is like, fuck.
Oh my!
Am I allowed to curse? Probably
yeah,
not.
you are.
Okay.
No, this is
Yay.
adult programming.
All the podcasts
children.
I listen to have cursing, so.
And this is another one.
Well,
that
minus
has it.
one, but I can imagine.
Can you say any of these names?
Oh, like my color names?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Some of them are different now. I used to have a color named Beyonce Blonde. And then it's basically like, it's a tritone blonde. It's like strawberry, a light blonde, and a dark blonde.
Yeah.
And like Beyonce Blonde, Bordeaux, Ginger Snap, Pale Blonde Frost, Vanilla Latte, Dark Rooted Dirty Blonde.
I just love these names, and these are all you just made these up.
I made them up. Yeah, I made them up just based upon like what the color looked like to me. And then these wigs here are original to me. Like I designed the cap and I designed the wig and everything, and I designed the colors. So these are all a theme, and they're all named after desserts.
I love creme brulee.
Yeah. Black licorice, creme brulee, gingerbread, red velvet, vanilla bean, oatmeal raisin, Turkish delight, whipped cream, cherry pie, key lime pie, and salted caramel.
Salted caramel. That's a good one
She's
too.
extra. Salted caramel was the color Erica wore in Kinky Boots.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
Erica Peterson.
S.
Oh, S.
Wait, no.
Playing
Yes.
Nicola.
No,
Or,
the other one.
playing Trish.
Playing Trish.
Trish.
Yes,
We
that
had
was
two
the salted
Ericas.
caramel.
It was
We
Erica
did.
with a C,
Erica
Erica
C,
with
and
a
Erica
K.
with a K.
So, great show. That was a great show. Okay, so all right, to this moment where we're sitting right now, I am curious what your life path has been. How, to get here. In terms of what was the first Broadway show? How did that come up? When did you quote unquote go pro with Wigs and Her?
Wigs and Her. My first Broadway show was Mary Poppins.
Okay.
And that was 2010. And basically what happened was I moved to the city. I graduated from Point Park with my degree in musical theater in 2009. And I moved straight to the city, and I went to beauty school at the Aveda Institute. And I graduated in the spring, and I hung around. I didn't really do anything for a couple months. And then I got hired as like I like to say mid-season replacement for the assistant hair supervisor at the Agunquit Playhouse, because something happened and it didn't work out. So then they brought me in, and then I was there for the whole summer. But my first professional gig was I was the hair intern at Pittsburgh CLO in the summer of 2008.
Okay.
But this is summer 2010. So I guess that was my real first job, because an intern is a job, but it's not like your first, big boy job getting paid.
Yeah.
So then I get back to the city in October, and while I was in Maine, I was getting called for availability for Broadway shows, because after I graduated beauty school, I made up my resume and my cover letter, and I sent it to every Broadway theater and every show. And luckily for me, growing up doing theater and having worked at CLO and having worked at Agunquit, I knew people that were in Broadway shows. So I was able to reach out to them and be like, hey, what's your hair supervisor's name? Hey, what's the wig person's name? So that I could actually address my letter to somebody and not just dear head of department.
Yeah.
And so I remember while I was there at Agunquit, I got called. Phantom of the Opera was the first show that ever called me.
Really?
Phantom called me, Memphis called me, and Mary Poppins called me. And I couldn't go because I was signed on till the end of October. And all of the shows were like, well, just give us a call when you're back in the city and we'd love to meet you and whatever. So I get back to the city, call everybody back. It's that weird time in between Halloween and New Year's, because we closed right around Halloween.
Yeah.
And so nothing's really hiring because everyone's already staffed up for the holidays.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just sat around for a minute, and then I remember distinctly, it was right before Thanksgiving. I just got my new bed and I was taking a nap in my bed, and my phone goes off. And I pick it up, and it's Mary Poppins. And I actually had a friend of mine who went to Carnegie Mellon while I was at Point Park, and we were friends in college, that was in the show. And so apparently they asked him for like, hey, can you give us that guy's name and number again? We have like a situation.
Yeah.
And so I went in the next day. I watched somebody do it once.
The next day.
This was
Okay.
the Tuesday, and I went in Wednesday matinee. Or no, I lied. It was a Monday.
Okay.
I got the call. Tuesday went and watched them do it. Wednesday
Yeah.
was a 2-show Wednesday. Did it by myself. Thursday was Thanksgiving. Friday, 2-show Friday. So it was like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it was kind of like getting shot out of a cannon, but
Yeah.
I'd worked summer stock. I'd worked regional. So like, as you know, like we just did Kinky Boots with 3 wardrobe people.
You get it done.
Yeah, like I saw my
just
friend
do
from the
it.
tour last night, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we only had 3 wardrobe people on tour and whatever, minus this." And I was like, "No, we had 3 boo total, like no wig people." And he was like, "What?" But like when you come from that world, you get it done. So like you
Yes.
know what time management, you know how to get stuff done quickly, and so like going in and running a show blind pretty much was easy
Yeah.
because it's kind of like doing summer stock.
What was that first like job title at Mary Poppins? What were you? Was it a certain track? Were you tracking someone?
I was
did
just
so-
a hair swing.
hair swing.
So they most of the time they just say hair swing. I sometimes if someone's not in the biz, I'll say like hair sub because then like if you say swing to somebody that's not a theater person, they're like okay, like a swing
is
set,
that?
like
Yeah.
what do you mean like a playground?
Yeah.
But if you say a sub, then they're like, "Oh, like a substitute."
Great.
So,
So you're-
hair swing.
Hair swing. Okay, cool. And then was it high flying from there? It was just hopping from job to job.
Yes and no. It kind of went in and out. Mary Poppins. When I have like, I was not like necessarily a different person back then because you know we all learn and we grow and whatever and we mature.
I'm still growing.
But like,
Shit.
right, all of us shit.
Hello.
Like I turned 33 in a couple weeks and I'm like, damn. Where did everything go? Like, where did time go? Like, I remember being a child, and now all of a sudden I'm almost mid-30s. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so, I was a lot to handle back then. I'm rather loud. I'm rather boisterous. I'm opinionated. I, can have fun and kiki and whatever. But like, especially when I was younger, I didn't really know how to rein it in. I didn't know how to read a room. I didn't know how to, feel the energy of everyone around me and then conduct myself in appropriate manner. I just come in like from day one. And I remember, and like some of the people that I've worked with Mary Poppins since have become my friends.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, like pretty much the full-time hair and makeup team were not nice to me in the beginning.
Okay.
But like, I get it. Like here comes this like huge 23-year-old kid and he's like loud and obnoxious and he thinks he knows everything and whatever. And they just didn't quite know how to deal with me in the proper way to get me put into my place.
I mean, come on. You must have been the youngest.
I mean, I know
Hair.
people that have done hair on Broadway that have been younger than that.
Oh, for real?
It's
That seems young
but
to me.
It's the age most of the kids start. Like, because
Okay.
the kids go to like North Carolina or they go to CCM and
Yeah.
they move to the city and start working on wigs at 22, 23 years
Okay.
old.
All right.
But so I only really swung Mary Poppins for about a year. And they only had me on that one track. That's the only, there were 4 tracks. Mary Poppins had her own person. There were 3 other hair tracks and then a makeup track. So I only knew one of the hair tracks at this point
Yeah.
for like a year. And then the supervisor changes and then the new supervisor comes in. And at this point I had gone to California to do PCPA and I came back and I started working at Memphis too. And started swinging at Memphis, and my friend Michelle was my supervisor, and just like the way that she treated me and the way that I was accepted into this family, and it wasn't like I kind of felt almost like that I didn't belong at Mary Poppins. Like I felt like the redhead stepchild. I felt like he's only here because we need him to be. I felt like I was just a warm body. Whereas at Memphis, like I was part of the family. I learned 3 out of the 4 tracks. I was basically there full time. I was basically at the end, I ended up learning 2 additional tracks in Mary Poppins, so I knew 3. So I did 3 and 3, and between those 2 shows, I was doing 8 shows a week. I was #1 swing on both of them. By the end of Mary Poppins, with the supervisor changing and me learning and growing and whatever, I ended up becoming like the #1 swing. I actually closed Mary Poppins.
Oh, wow.
I was there closing night. And so then once that closed and then Memphis closed, and I was designing off-Broadway shows here and there a little bit, everything just closed. There was a point for over 6 months where I did not step foot into a Broadway theater because nothing was running. And that was around the time that I got my taxes done myself for the first time, and I owed all this money. And I was like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And so I asked my mom if I could borrow like $1,000 and use her business license number to like open a wholesale account with a wig company and start selling wigs on eBay. And I started doing that, and I started going to wig sales and finding like that last call $10 wig that's a little busted in the corner, and I'd steam it out and reset it and maybe sew some hair into it and style it and sell it on eBay. And that's sort of how I got started.
Wow.
And my idea was never really to do drag wigs. My idea was never really to do drag queens full time. But it just sort of fell in my lap because I was good at getting hair really, really big. But because of my theatrical training, I was good at making hair last a long time. And, if you're going to spend $400 on a wig, you want it to last. So I just started getting drag queen clients like through Instagram and I was also had a YouTube channel at the time. And so I was kind of getting all of this constant drag orders left and right all the time. And it was great. But eventually I felt that it was a little stifling to me because I was constantly doing the same thing. I was doing the same wig with like a finger wave and a pullback on the side in every single color: red, black, brown, purple, orange, yellow, green, every color. And that's pretty much all I was doing. And I was dealing with like, I'm an empath, and I also like believe in energy, and I believe in karma and all of that stuff. So dealing with some of these drag queens' personalities was extremely taxing on me. And as a I forget what's the word when you have both introverted and extroverted tendencies. It's not omnivert. Is it ambivert?
Don't get me to lying.
No, right, yeah.
It's not coming to me.
yeah.
But I understand what you're saying.
Someone write us in.
Yes,
someone send us a
someone will
tweet
say it.
right now.
Yeah.
So weeks later when it airs. So that I often tend to live in introvert land.
Okay.
And so just this constant in your face with their personality and their attitude, and a lot of them can be very demanding, and it was just very draining to me. And one day I kind of woke up and I was like, why am I getting so upset about this? Why am I putting so much energy in this when this isn't really what I want? And this isn't what my dream is, and this isn't where I want to be or what I want to do. And so I like made the conscious effort to like step back from drag and focus on doing theatrical wigs again. And I still will do wigs for my drag friends here and there, but for the most part, it's like trying to focus on theater and doing rentals and building for people. And I feel that I did the drag wigs for so long that that's kind of all the people see me as.
How long was long, like total?
For doing the drag wigs?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I started doing drag wigs after Memphis closed, which I think was 2012. So like, I mean, I still do them. So I can't, like for like my friends or like my assistant's a drag queen. So I'll do wigs for him. And I do drag sometimes too. So I'll do wigs for me. And like probably like hardcore, like 5 years.
Okay.
Of just constant. And I used to work out of my house. And so I'd come home and I'd come home and there'd be wigs out, and I'd go, and I live in a studio. So I'd go to bed. I wake up, I see wigs. Like I put my feet on the floor. There's hairballs under my feet. Like there's hair in my couch. There's hair everywhere. And it just, I couldn't relax. I couldn't shut off. And it eventually got to the point where I was like, I need to get this out of my apartment. I can't look at it. And then that's how I ended up with having all my, like, I used to have my office for like my website. So the room we're in now is my stock room. And the stock room used to be its own office, separate. It was on 28th and 5th. And then all the styling was done at my house. But, then I'd style at my house, and then I'd have to pack up the wig and take it on the train and go to my office and then pack it up and ship it and then take it to UPS and then take the train to go to work. And it was all of this back and forth where I was like, I can just have everything in one place. And then it was kind of dumb for me to like get the place and then start to stop doing the drag orders, because then it's like, oh wait, how am I going to pay my rent? Oh wait.
Oh, that thing called money.
That money thing. Oh yeah. electric bill. Can I fudge that a little bit? But it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I feel that especially with drag and Drag Race, I was doing what other people wanted me to do for so long that I lost track of what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, like, I'm all I got. So I need to listen to myself and I need to do what I want to do because one day I might not be able to.
Right.
So
I'm curious if we're going to do a little hopping around again.
okay. I bounced around like 17 different times in that story.
No, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Back to Mary Poppins. What were the steps, or what did you learn about your own energy and what to adjust and change and match and read the room? Like, what was that journey right there of lesson learning for you? Okay.
It was something that sort of evolved over the years. Like, I actually I don't think at the time I really noticed anything because I was always the weird kid. I was always the fat kid, the gay kid, whatever, growing up. So, like, I always have always been around, like, the mean girl mentality. Like, I've always been around that. But seeing it in, like, a professional setting was weird to me. And I just was like my supervisor, I mean, not going to name names, but like supervisor at the time was like really rude and he would talk down to me like I was a child. Like, no, Bobbie, that's not how that works. And I'm like, I'm an adult. Like, don't patronize me. If I'm getting on your nerves, tell me. If I'm doing something wrong, tell me. And so it ended up being just working over the years and meeting, like, I've done over 20 Broadway shows as a hair swing. Yeah. So I've been booked and blessed, thank God. Since that little lull where I started Bobbie Pinz,
right.
or that little 6-month lull. But basically I've worked full time on Broadway as a swing, and a hair swing. And it just it made me realize that, like, not everyone's going to like you and you're not going to be able to impress everybody all the time. So the best thing that you can do is just be yourself, read the room, and bring your A game. So it wasn't until years later that I kind of realized, oh my God, I was a lot. Like, I was a lot. I was special. Like, I was very loud. I just didn't, like, I couldn't read the room.
Okay.
And I remember every time I'd go into a Broadway show, there was a point where, like, even if there were swings that would come in and learn principal tracks, I never was that swing. Like, I always did ensemble and supporting and stuff like that. And I remember, like, I was on one show and there was a lot of moving around. Like, hair people were coming and going, tracks were shifting around. And then I ended up learning the principal track. It used to be the supervisor track. And then it became the assistant track. And when it became the assistant track, I ended up learning it. So I knew all of the hair tracks in that room. And it was sort of like a necessity. It wasn't like, oh my God, Bobbie, we want you to have the leading lady. It was almost like, you're already here, you're on payroll, and you know the other two tracks, and you've been here the longest, we'll train you to do it. And I remember when I was training with my supervisor, all she did was like, I went into training with her and she was like, okay, so we're going to go, because we had celebrities in and out of that show all the time. It was Cinderella. So we had celebrities in that show all the time. And she was like,
Yes.
Bobbie, we're going to go in there and you're going to meet Fran Drescher and you need to be quiet. And I was like, you got it. And so I went in there and I stood and I watched her do everything. I took notes, I paid attention, and I did all of that. And then I remember we were leaving and she was like, I honestly didn't think you were going to be able to be quiet for that long. I'm a chatty bitch. And she was like, I didn't think you'd be able to be quiet for that long. She was like, I'm kind of impressed. And I was like, I can shut up if you want me to. You just have to tell me.
Yeah.
Like, so then she ended up hiring me on like every Broadway show she did after that. Like, we did, I think 2 or 3 more shows together after that. And because she was like, okay, he's fun, he's good at his job, but he can read a room and he can tell if he can talk to people or not. And I can't, and like, that was sort of the moment, because I never thought about it. I just was like, okay, I'm going to sit and watch you pin on Fran Drescher's wig and not make an ass of myself. And that was sort of when I realized, oh, this is good. This is something that I need to work on. and I've gotten better at it, and like getting more into like spirituality and energy and all of that has helped as well, because I can tell when someone doesn't want to talk to me. I can tell when someone's not in a good mood. And so like I'll just sit over here and put on like my headphones, listen to some music, and do my wig on my own, and I will leave you alone.
Right.
But 23-year-old me, nope. It's like, yeah. It's like getting a new puppy, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's this? Oh my God, what's that? Oh my God, that's a ball. Ball." Like, no.
All these wigs.
Yeah.
It's so I'm so glad you're sharing this, because I think it's so important, especially to young artists, to really understand reading a room.
Yes.
That's the game changer. You know, after you're in the room and everyone's talented and everyone looks good and everyone can dance and everyone can act and everyone's on their A game, the people who can really read the room and communicate on different wavelengths.
Yes.
Not just their one communication wavelength, like every wavelength. I think it's really great to share this journey. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are you into energies, spirituality?
Yes.
Are you meditating? Is this like a constant practice for you, or is it just an awareness?
It's sort of an awareness. Like, I need to get better at it. I need to learn more about it. But like, I don't really have the time because I work
busy.
so much. Like, it's very, like we were talking before we started recording, that like I work a lot and I very rarely get time off and days off and whatever. But it is something that has kind of always interested me. And I'm starting to learn a little bit about it more, like here and there, from people. I have a lot of friends of mine that are self-titled witchy women. So they are very much into spirituality and energy. And for me, like, the change was like, I had a really good friend that was in between sublets and going through a rough time, and we ended up becoming roommates for a while, and he like stayed with me for a couple weeks, and then he went and had another sublet, and then he came back, and then he went and had another sublet, and he was back for a couple days, and then he went back. And so like having this friend and like building a bond by like living with them, like we became energetically connected. And I'd never had that happen with a friend, a lover, anything like that before. And it was weird. And it was like, wait a minute. Like, I can feel like that you're anxious, even though we're not even in the same city. And it's not so much now, because like we still talk a lot, but like I haven't seen them in like 8 months, and we don't really talk about that kind of stuff anymore. It's more like, I hate my mom, I hate my job, kind of like typical mid-30s bullshit. You know, this is what I'm going through. But that was sort of the first time that I was like, oh my God, I remember like seeing ghosts when I was a kid, and my mom.
Oh my God, I did too.
Like, I saw ghosts when I was a kid. I don't really, like, looking back, were they really ghosts? Was I just dreaming? I don't know. But like, my mom is very spiritual in that way too, where like anytime someone in the family dies, they come to her in a dream. And like I remember my mom's brother passed away, and then my grandpa's brother passed away within a week or two of each other. And I remember calling my mom and asking her, "Hey mom, because my mom and her brother were sort of estranged. Like, she would talk to him every once in a while, usually about me, because he was a musician and like I was artistic, and she would send him videos every time I did a musical. Like, she would get a DVD of like when I did Into the Woods in high school, or when I was in Cats or whatever, and send them to my uncle. And that's the only way that they would communicate, would be about me, like me and what I'm doing with the arts. And then he passed away around the same time my grandpa's brother passed away. And I remember calling my mom and being like, "Hey mom, like, I'm sorry about Uncle Ed. I'm sorry about Uncle Yusky. Did Uncle Ed come to you in a dream?" Uncle Ed's her brother. And my parents lived in Pittsburgh. My Uncle Ed lived in Virginia. And then my Uncle Yusky, my grandpa's brother, lived in Israel with his wife, my Yafa. And so they both passed away within like a week of each other. And my mom is like, "No, Uncle Ed didn't visit me." She was like, "But Uncle Yusky did." She was like, "So Uncle Yusky came to me in a dream all the way from Israel, and my own stubborn brother couldn't come from Virginia." And then a couple weeks later, he supposedly came to her in a dream, but she couldn't remember what he said. And I'm like, is this like the Dream in Fiddler on the Roof? Are you making this up on the spot? Like, am I Golda Yurtevia? I don't know. Could I at least be from a Sarah? Like, I don't know. But I always, like, I've grown up with it.
Yeah.
So for me, the energies and spirituality and everything sort of has always been around me, but now that I'm getting older, like, I feel it more. And I'm very big into like putting stuff in the universe, and I've been like that for a while. And when I was in Denver in January, one of my girlfriends, really good friends that lives there, took me to her Witchy Woman store. And she bought me, I mentioned I wanted to sage my apartment because I felt like there was bad energy. So she bought me sage, and she bought me an intention candle, and she bought me what's it called? The little Jewish, they're mostly Jewish, but they're kind of everything. It's like the little eye, the blue hand with the eye on it. I forget what that's called. Eye of something, maybe. I'm like the worst Jew ever. I like to say I'm Jew-ish.
Hyphen.
Hyphen-ish.
Ish.
Hyphen-ish. It's like the I tried to make a joke and I lost it. I was gonna say that hyphen-ish is like the
It sounds like a
the
last name.
punctuation version of Blackish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to
It's
say
the
that's going
college
to be.
version.
You got to reboot your vlog, and it's got to be Jewish.
Jewish. Well, back in the day, my YouTube channel was called Ask a Jew when I was in college, and my dad found it, and he didn't like it, so that I had to take everything down.
Oh, and there it is. Mm-hmm. This is fascinating to talk about these energies because you can feel it.
Yeah.
In the room.
Yeah.
And I am curious, in these 20 plus Broadway shows that you've been a part of, stories, good, bad, or otherwise, of, like common themes of the top performers you've worked with, have worked with, celebrities. Does anything come to mind? Conversations backstage or ways of being that you really appreciated?
I generally find that within my 20 Broadway shows, and I find that generally the more well-known, at least like in my experience, like, and this is, I've had the gamut of experiences and I've worked with a ton of people, but for the most part, I feel like the more famous you are in the theater world, the more down to earth you are, the more humble you tend to be, the more chill you tend to be. But I find that like when you kind of bring reality stars into the mix, they can sort of just be something completely different. Because like when you're dealing with Hollywood and you're dealing with, especially now, social media stardom, like these people are used to having a team. They have their manager, they have their assistant, they have their dog walker, they have the person that opens their soda can for them. Like they have all these people that work for them. But in theater, it's kind of like you come to work and you have a dresser and a stage manager, but no one's really responsible for you besides yourself.
You get yourself to the theater.
Right.
You get on the subway.
And so dealing with seeing just just that on its own, like the first time like I went, like when Fran Drescher came into Cinderella, she had her assistant with her in her dressing room all the time. Sherry Shepherd had an assistant there sometimes, I believe. So did Nene Leakes. Like there's people that work because their hands are in so many different pots, which is something you talked about when you talked to Doug Lyons about like just hands in different pots. And I thought I was booked. That dude, I don't know how he does it.
I don't know. The work-life balance is impressive.
It's very impressive. And he always is just so, sometimes he gets tired, but because I've known Doug for 5 years now with Beautiful. Yeah. I did polka dots for him. And so like I've been around, and part of, him and Ethan and Melvin, like getting this, like getting their projects up and running.
It's crazy.
And I'm always like, I'm not as tired as Doug.
If I think I'm tired, let me think about Doug.
I think I'm tired, but then I just think of what Doug Lyons is doing right now, and I'm like, great. I'll just make myself feel better. What were we talking about before?
We were talking about the assistants.
Oh, the assistants
hands
thing.
in
Yeah.
so many pots.
And just seeing the difference between how, like working with Rebecca Luker, who like definitely one of my most favorite people I've ever worked with. We had such a good time during Cinderella. She would write me a note every Sunday. Yeah. If I was there on a Sunday and she would tip me, she'd write me a note every week. And it was always some sort of inside joke from like whatever. And I've saved all of them. Like I have them like in a box, like save all my little Rebecca Luker notes. Yeah. And it was always just an inside joke or like whatever. Just seeing the difference of like these people that grew up and like started from the bottom in the chorus or the ensemble or a swing and then moved up to like leading Lady Tony Award winner. Just the difference of how that person conducts themselves backstage versus a reality or a film star. Yeah. But there are film people that have started in theater and then went to film and TV and then came back. It happens. But I find that the more famous the theatrical person is, the easier they are to work with. I've usually found like the most people that are the hardest to work with, like the divas, the ones that are demanding, the ones that are like kind of obnoxious, not to like like name call, but like those types of people tend to be in the ensemble. They tend to be swings. They tend to be, and everyone's in a different place in their journey. And I might work with them later, and we might be best friends in 5 years. Who knows? Yeah. Everyone's in a different place. You don't know anyone's story. You just know what they show you and what they give you.
You can only take what you see.
You can only take what you see. It's face value all the time. And even like when so that's what I've noticed is how usually the ones that you think would be the problem, like that leading lady that has 5 Tonys,
sweetheart,
chill as fuck.
Yeah.
But then there's like
Needs
little
no
ensemble help. Broadway debut over here that like
yeah.
doesn't, that they're the ones that are causing the most trouble. They're the ones getting in trouble. They're the ones not doing their job properly. And I'm not, blanket statement.
Of course, of course.
But like
and
in 20 shows,
well, I'm curious.
I've seen everything.
Have you? And the answer could be no. But have you worked with someone who was in like one show a bit difficult, and then you've just literally watched them blossom into the consummate professional as their career has matured? Or no?
Kind of yes and no. I mean, there was a girl, I did a show with her once. I was a swing, and I came in, and every time I was in the track that did her wigs, she was nasty. Yeah. Like, she was always complaining about something. She'd like grab the pins for me and like just pin herself in, and like, you need to go faster, you need to do this, I need to do this. Like, was very demanding. Yeah. And didn't like me. And like, regardless of whether I was in the track that dealt with her or one of the other tracks I knew, it was weird. And I was just like, what's this girl's problem? And then I went into another show, and I was full time there. It was a flop, and only ran for like 2 seconds. And so I was there, and I was full time. And like the first day, she was like my best friend, and she was so nice to me and so kind to me. And I'm like, what? This is weird. Like, a year ago we did a show together, and you like seemed to like hate my existence. And then, but she ended up not liking my supervisor. Because, in the beginning when you're setting up a show, it's kind of like, okay, I'll just grab this wig and put it on that person. Tomorrow I might not put it on the same person. You're building a show, you're building a track. Yeah. And so she used to go to my supervisor, and then she liked me better. So then she switched back to me. And I'm like, this is weird. Who are you? Like, I don't know. But
you're like, I don't know.
She was at the time, the first show was dating somebody in the show. So there was a weird energy there. There was weird drama there, bringing drama to work, shitting where you eat, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I have friends that do it and have had great success. Like, I'm not one of those people. But I'd have to get a text back first, It's like, no one ever. But then coming in and having a different show, and that relationship was over, and she was single, and it's, it makes a big difference. Yeah. But for the most part, it's kind of, I've never really had an issue. There are some people that I've noticed just that can be very guarded, and they won't really talk to you. They have to warm up to you. And I've had several actors like that where, you have to like get on their side, and you have to like sort of figure out how to win them, and like figure out how to make, not like how to make them like you. Like, it's not a popularity contest. No. But if you're going to, spend 6 out of your 7 days a week with somebody,
you got to go along together.
You got to get along, And if I'm going to be doing 6 wig changes a show with you and pinning your mic on, like, I'm spending a decent chunk of my night with you. Yeah. It needs to be fun. And like, I've had actors take months to warm up. I had one girl that took forever to warm up, and then we were cool for 2 months, and then she left. And I was like, oh, great. Thanks. Bye. But now I see her out and about, and she always runs up and gives me a hug. Yeah. Like if I see her out in the street, and I'm like, great.
Yeah, it's. I imagine in terms of theater, you're learning a lot about human communication, because you see true colors backstage, and really of do. Everyone, of everyone. It's not one. This is not shading anyone, and it's kind of just interesting to adapt and to not take it personally. And that's something I know I've been working on. Is like, if someone's incredibly rude to me or incredibly nice to me, it's not about me. It's about how they feel. It's not personal. I maybe made them feel good, or I maybe made them feel bad. Not intentionally, hopefully the being feel good is intentional. Not the other one, not so much. But to not take any of that personally is like the game changer, so you can adapt and become friends with someone down the line again, or whatever.
Right, totally.
I
Yeah.
just think that's so important to talk about because
No, it is. It really, and like we mentioned earlier, like reading a room and knowing,
Yes.
Yes. I think it's also like knowing your strengths and weaknesses, like strengths and weaknesses. If I
Yes.
could talk, it'd be great. I didn't warm up today. I didn't do my red leather, yellow leather. See, I can't even say it. I like red leather.
Come on, we're 45 minutes in here, baby.
I'm trying. I'm now warmed up.
So, who does Bobbie Pinz want to be known as or for? Because I know it's been a lot of drag, and we're back in theater. And what is it? What are the goals you're working towards these days? What do you want to be known for?
I like to think of as that stupid Liza Minnelli interview where she's like, I just want to be known for making people laugh.
Yeah.
Have you seen that video?
Yes,
Like,
of course.
And life is a hullabaloo.
Yeah.
No, I would love to be a Broadway wig designer. Like, I very much so look up to Paul Huntley, and I kind of get my styling aesthetic from him, like that classic British comb out, like they call it the West End wave. Like my little finger wave I put in everything is called a West End wave, at least over there.
Yeah.
And so I very much so look up to him, and like he was like the king of Broadway wigs. He was like the only one for years.
Yeah.
He did everything. He's done everything. His hand's been in so many shows and so many pots.
Yeah.
That's like my ideal dream, is to have a career like Paul Huntley and to have a career like Chuck LaPointe or Tom Watson or Josh Marquette. Like all of those, like the greats, like they're working all the time, producing beautiful work. And that's what I want. And it's like, that's what I want, but I find that like I'm still kind of getting stuck in the drag thing, and like back to Doug, and Doug is like the sweetest person and never wants to make anybody angry or anything, and he always like does his best to correct stuff. But like because I did the Ivory Tin production of Polka Dots, which he talks about.
Oh yeah.
Go back a couple weeks and listen to Doug Lyon's episode. It's great.
It's good. It is really
I'll finish
great.
it later today, but it's really good.
Yeah, it is.
And so Doug made this post about how excited he was because it was their first production.
Yeah.
Like they had done workshops and readings and whatever, but this was the first, and Carnegie Mellon had done a student production of it.
Right.
But this was the first stage production of Polka Dots. And actually the girl that played the mom Polka Dot is my office assistant now, Shelby.
love it.
Love her. She's the reason all of this is organized and labeled, by the way.
Come on, Shelby.
I call her my OCD actor friend. You are welcome, Shelby. Love you.
We all need one.
We do. We need them.
Yeah.
If you're not one yourself, get one.
Yeah.
But he had made this really great, super grateful, like love chocolate post on Facebook of how excited he was for the show. And he's like, and I have this person directing it. And I have this person being the costume designer. And I have, the Broadway Joe Delude, who's the makeup designer of Wicked. Like he made Elphaba Green was the makeup designer. And he was like, makeup designer of Wicked and a drag queen doing the wigs. And I was like, Doug, no. I was like, I understand what you mean. And I was like, but I'm not. I mean, I do drag occasionally, but like I don't refer to myself as a drag queen. And at the end of the day, even if I was, Bobbie's the one doing the wigs. Yeah. I'm the one doing the work. Yeah. The drag is just there. And I was like, so can you just put like wig designer or something?
Yeah.
I was like, it's like I just don't want to be like typed into that.
Yeah.
As somebody that like grew up in musical theater, as a person of size, as a not stereotypical heteronormative type person, I've constantly had type down my throat all the time.
Yeah.
You can't sing that. That's not your type. You can't play that role. That's not your type. And so to kind of go into the same thing now in adulthood where it's like, and wigs by a drag queen.
Yeah.
And wigs by this. Yeah. And he's a drag queen. He's a drag queen. And it's like, I'm a wig designer.
Yeah.
Like drag isn't... drag is a part of it because she's like an extension of me, and she's sort of like my billboard for my company. But like if I'm only doing drag once or twice a year, I'm not a drag queen. Right. I wouldn't call myself. I mean, I call myself a drag queen because it's easier. Right. It's better than saying crossdresser. But like and that's actually about a crossdresser is a completely different thing. That's a different podcast. Yeah. But and he was super kind in his normal, like, great Doug way. I get it. I'm so sorry. I was just excited for the diversity and this, that, and the other thing, and I'll change it right now. No worries. And I've done polka dots. I did the polka dots tour for them. I did Ivoryton. I've done other little things. And so it never affected like our relationship together because I came about it. He didn't mean it maliciously and I didn't mean it maliciously.
Of course
And
not.
I just was like, hey, this is what I'm trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And you're kind of putting me back in that same box.
Has that changed the way you talk about what you do? Like your branding? It's difficult when you're wearing so many hats to be like,
Right.
well, who is Bobbie? You know what I mean? He's a wig designer. He occasionally does drag. You know what I mean? And I wonder, has that changed like consciously, or it's kind of just your being?
It's
And
kind of just
it
like
just happens.
It just happens. It's kind
Yeah.
of just like who I am and what I am. And a lot of times, especially like being as single as I am, being on dating websites, being on hookup websites, and people are like, what do you do? What do you do? What
Yeah.
do you do for work? And so like
you got to define it in a word.
I have to define it and I have to say what I do. So like I either say one of two things. I either say I'm in theater or I say I do hair. Because they're both true. I do both. And they're both a blanket enough statement to be like, if they do want to get specific, they can. But usually that's sort of enough to be like, oh, cool.
Now I put you in your box.
You put me in my little box. Yep.
I've labeled.
And
You've
hair.
labeled me there.
Yeah, that's where I am. And
Salted caramel.
Salted caramel in the box. Yeah.
Okay. No, and I think it's that's another point too, especially for people who are wearing many hats in this industry. And I actually didn't get to talk to Doug about it because he's a musical theater performer. He's an actor. He's a writer. He's a producer. He's a director. He's it's like, so
Choreographer,
which one?
like he staged and choreographed the
Choreographer.
polka dots tour that I did for him earlier this year.
It's like, which word do you pick? What order do you
Yeah.
put it in?
Yeah.
What do you focus on? So I think it's
Right.
really, and I know you solely as a wig designer. I mean,
Right.
that's like, we've now met twice. Had
Right.
two projects that you were working on. It's
Yes.
just like, it's a small community.
It really, really is. We all know everybody.
Don't we?
Yeah.
What's your,
So cut all the names out that I used. Thanks.
yeah, right? Everyone. There's and I ask this question a lot, and we've touched on it a little bit, and I'm curious if there's anything else you have to add to it. Your views on relationships in this industry, and professional relationships, and how much everyone knows each other. And I don't know if there's any talking points or anything that comes to.
Yeah, I find that it is such a small community, so you always have to watch what you say. And I'm one of those firm believers. It's not shady if it's true. I'm like, that's kind of where I live. And sometimes I'll say stuff and Justin, my assistant, will be like, Bobbie. And I'm like, it's not shade if it's true. Like, I'm literally stating a fact. I am stating a fact. No.
It's
like,
a fact.
If I wanted to be shady, I would be shady. I'm quite good at being shady. Only on my phone when I have time to like edit it and post it to Facebook or whatever later. Person, not so much.
Right.
Off the cuff, no. But I find that a lot of people, especially in the industry, aren't self-aware enough, because I think that, especially in the industry being so small, everybody knows everybody, that stuff gets around, stuff gets back. And I'm one of those people, especially now in my old age, I have gotten to the point where, like, I don't want to bother with it anymore. If it's none of my business and it doesn't personally affect me, a lot of times it's like, I don't really care. Like, you do you, congratulations, whatever. But a lot of people can't let that go. And a lot of people have to kind of focus on what everyone else is doing and what everyone else is accomplishing and booking and working on. And then, and like, when you're focusing that much on somebody else, you're not focusing on yourself and getting yourself there. And like, I have a friend that has not the best reputation in the hair and makeup industry, but she's constantly booked. Oh goodness.
Yeah, we're taking a
Pause.
quick pause.
Yeah, so I feel that it's like, because you have to build these relationships and you have to keep people in your lives, and sometimes it might not necessarily be somebody that you get along with. It might not be somebody that you might have a past history or whatever with them. And I have a friend who doesn't have the best reputation, and it's it hurts me because she's so talented and she's great at what she does, and she's booked and blessed, and she works all the time despite all the stuff and the reputation and everything. At the end of the day, she does good work and she's fun to be around. But like, there's other things. But why I brought her up is because it's never her fault. That person's my arch nemesis. That person hates me. I can't work with that person. I won't work with that person, this, that, and the other thing. And from someone that's known her for years, that's heard all the stories, that's been in these rooms, that knows all these people, to me, it's like, you're the problem. Like, you can't just like shove it under the rug and be like, that person hates me and that's this. Why? That person hates you because of something you directly did to them and said directly about them, and it got back to them. Gets back.
Yeah.
It's like Fun Home. It all comes back. You know, like, it's
quote musical theater.
Yeah, musical theater. Me. And so I find that like it's a struggle because you have to keep these relationships and you have to learn to play nice, and you have to kind of, and you know, at the end of the day, if I don't like one of my coworkers, especially as a swing, and I've done this before, if I don't like one of my actresses or if I don't like somebody in the room, I just say no when they call to book me. And I've done it. Yeah. I've had really like horrible experiences with some actresses or some actors at certain shows, and I've just been like, not gonna come back.
Yeah.
And it's because it's like I'm in a place where like I'm lucky enough that I can pick and choose what I want to do, and I don't want to be a professional Broadway hair swing the rest of my life. Like, I want to be a designer. I want to set up these shows. I want to design these shows. I want to hire my crew. I want to build and make magic, and I want to like inspire other people. Yeah. And so if I'm having issues with somebody at a show, I am lucky enough that I don't have to go back. Yeah. But when you're working full time and you're dealing with, you know, the rumors and the he said, she said, and all of that, I find that like having accountability for yourself and being able to realize I'm the problem. I messed that up. I made this drama. I can't be mad at anybody except myself. And I think that's sort of what I learned and what changed with me throughout the years, and starting at Mary Poppins and being treated the way that I was, and being talked to the way that I was. And like I'm friends with pretty much everyone I've worked with there from Mary Poppins now. And like I constantly say, I was a lot to deal with, and you guys just didn't know how to deal with me, and I didn't know that it was a problem, and I didn't know it was wrong, quote unquote wrong, for that room. Could have worked in other rooms, and it does work in other rooms. Some rooms I go and I'm like, the second I walk in the room to the second the curtain comes down. But other rooms, I go in there and mum's the word. Nothing, because you have to read the room and know the energy. I'm completely off topic now. I keep circling back.
Again, though, really good stuff. And it's really good. It's not talked about.
Right.
You know, the stuff we're talking about right now, it's not, people don't talk about it, because then there's also, I think, a little bit of a fear of professionalism. Like, let's not even talk about that. We just don't talk about it. You know, just be nice. Let's not dissect it. Let's just, you know, just smile, be nice. You know, just be nice. Just don't even talk about it. And I'm glad that we're uncovering it, because there's, I'm sure, someone listening who's going through it on either side of the situation.
Right.
Who wants to hear it, doesn't want to hear it, needs to hear it, doesn't need to hear it, whatever. And I'm glad it's documented.
Yes.
And this, I'm really glad we got to sit down and talk about this is like, wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Where can we find you on the social media?
On the social medias, I have, again, my hand in so many pots, so I have multiple accounts because,
of course,
different things.
They think you're a Russian bot.
They think I'm a Russian bot. They probably do. That's a good drag name, Russian bot.
Oh, yeah.
But it's Russian, like I'm rushing somewhere.
Yes.
Russian bot. I'm on Instagram. My business profile page is BobbiePinz.com, written out. That's BobbiePinz.com. And then my personal Instagram handle is WigginOutBZ, WIGGINOUTBZ. That's also my YouTube channel, and I have like tutorials and stuff like that from years ago. You can see me be really, really fat and then really, really skinny, and then my hair be really, really short and then really, really red. And it's great to see my little journey as a person through the years. And yeah, BobbiePinz.com, business, WigginOutBZ, personal. Yeah.
This is great.
Thanks.
What's in the store for the future?
What's in store for the future? Coming up next, I'm doing a production of Little Mermaid at the end of the month.
Great.
Doing a couple wigs for that. And I'm excited for that because it's not the typical Disney pretty perfect hair. It's like set in the 80s. And they're like all like, I don't quite understand. I haven't talked fully about the production, but I don't believe they're wearing fins.
Okay.
Like, I think they're just kind of like in
This is
80s day clothes, and I'm sure there's going to be some way to distinguish human from mer people or whatever. But I'm up doing that at the end of the month.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And that's like
for
a lot
it.
of artistic freedom for you.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of artistic freedom, and it's not crazy amount of wigs. It's like 15, I think. Okay. Which is about normal for like a rental package of like a musical.
Yeah.
And I have that coming up, and my birthday's at the end of the month. I don't know when this will air, but August 31st. Send me nudes, thanks. And
Venmo at
Bobbie Pinz. Thanks.
Oh Lord.
My Grindr and Scruff profile names are Face Photos, please. Actually, I think it's just Face Photos right now. I don't know. I change it. It's usually East Village or Face Photos, because if it's East Village, I get people asking me where I live.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's Face Photos, I get people without face photos. So I'm kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I just kind of
You got to toy with that one.
Yeah. And so that's what's coming up for me next up, and training at Tootsie tonight. I'm training at Tootsie tonight, and then I'm training at Beetlejuice right around my birthday. So I'm picking up 2 Broadway shows because Beautiful's closing and Waitress is closing.
Yes.
And Beautiful's like pretty much, I've been there since it was in preview. Wow. I've been there for years, and I went out on the tour a couple times, and so it's like near and dear to my heart, and we're losing that. And so I'm losing that, losing Waitress, which I don't go too much anymore. But so I'm picking up 2 new ones, and that's kind of the name of the game. Like, especially when you're a quote unquote professional swing, you have to constantly be picking up other gigs. And I've been lucky that everything I've been on lately has run.
Yeah, for a hot minute.
Like, I haven't trained on a show in a year and a half. I think the last time I trained on a show.
Wow. So
So it's been a minute. So hopefully I still remember how to do that.
that's exciting.
I can run a track.
Yeah.
But training a track, you're like, oh, right. and I've never worked the Marquee. I've never worked the Winter Garden either. So like both of these shows,
new locations.
I'm not only learning a new show, I'm learning a new building.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Schubert, I've done that before. New Am, done that before. What other multiple theaters that I've worked in more than once.
I do have to ask before we get off here.
Yeah.
What do you have a favorite theater?
Do I have a favorite theater?
Yeah, or like a favorite, even just like less stairs.
Less stairs.
Or whatever. I don't know.
I love the Hair Room at the Lyric.
Okay.
Which is where Harry Potter is right now.
Yeah.
I did Spider-Man there, and I did On the Town there as well.
Yeah.
And I love that Hair Room. It's so big and spacious, and because it was originally not originally, but it was built to house a lot of people. Like when the revival of 42nd Street was there were 12 hairdressers.
Oh my.
10 in the room, and then they had 2 extra stations out in the hallway that are still there. They're still there. They're used as quick change areas. It's like a mirror with lights and everything. Yeah. And then so that was 10 people in a room, and for On the Town there were 3 of us. So literally we each had like 6 feet of station. We had a couch that folded out into like a futon, like folded flat. And we like decorated the everyone brought in pictures because On the Town's 1940s. Everyone brought in pictures of their family from the 40s.
I love it.
And so like I had pictures of my grandparents on both sides because they both got married in the 40s or late 30s or early 40s. And we like put all those pictures up on the wall, and that's my favorite Hair Room. And I mean, it's a good theater because everything's pretty much on one floor. You're either on stage level or you're below.
Yeah.
And the Sondheim's sort of the same thing. You're on stage level or you're below, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the ones with all the stairs. Like the Lunt. Like I did Motown at the Lunt, and I was in the Hair Room, and that was it. I was in the Hair Room. I was on deck. I was in the basement. That was it. And the Hair Room is on stage left. The stage door's on stage right, so you have to walk across the stage or walk under to go to the Hair Room. But The dressing room tower is, I believe, 6 or 7 floors, and there's no elevator. So when I did summer, I was the principal track. So I had LaShawn's and Ari and Storm, and LaShawn's was on the 2nd floor, like above stage level, and then Ari was like on the 4th floor, and then Storm was like on the 5th floor. So I had to like climb up all of these stairs and then climb all the way back down.
Oh my goodness.
And luckily only that one time.
Yeah.
And my least favorite hair room is the Schubert.
It's the Schubert.
It floods.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Oh, no.
I was doing Memphis, and it was pouring, and it only ever happened when I was doing the one track that was over. There's like an L-shaped counter, and he's over next to the sink.
Yeah.
And anytime I was that track, it would pour rain, and the wig room would flood. And the water would be coming in right at my feet, basically, and we'd have to get the shop vac. Luckily, the 2 or 3 times it happened during Memphis, we had it was at the end of the show, so like someone went and stood in the hallway with a laundry basket to get the wigs at the end of the show, and we sat and like
vacuumed up water.
Vacuumed it all up, and it happened, and it would flood. And then I went back and did Matilda, and the wall had been patched and everything, but from what I understood, it's still flooded. I have friends over there now for To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't know if it still floods or not. I mean, it probably did the other day when it was pouring down rain.
Well, we got that Amber Alert for flooding.
Oh my God.
It was.
I was at Beetlejuice. My mom and I went to see Beetlejuice, and the Amber Alert sound went off in the middle of like one of Alex Brightman's scenes. And I thought it was a bit. Like, I thought it was part of, like, he was going to pull out a cell phone.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
No, it was somebody's Amber Alert in the audience went off, because then when I turned my phone on at intermission, it like caught up. But yeah, the Schubert hair room. Schubert's, get it together. They want to build. I don't know if they still do. They wanted to build a new theater on 46th and 8th, where like that little market is.
Yes.
They want to build a theater there, and I'm like, why don't you like make the Schubert theater, your namesake theater, not flood when it rains?
Yeah.
Like, why spend more money doing that when if your theaters are in bad shape?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if that's the worst of it. That's my least favorite, because
I mean, behind the wall might be stones that they have to remove. I mean, it like, you know, like some of these. I mean, some of the buildings in the city are so historical, aka old. Yeah. That it's like they got to take out the whole north side of the building to replace brick.
Stuff. Right. Yeah. And then they're right.
I can only imagine.
They're right up against the Broadhurst.
Oh yeah, and those things
like,
are
and they're
sandwiched.
They're connected.
Yeah.
Like the alley is the same.
It is. You're right.
They have the same little alley on the side.
Oh my! We should do, honestly, at this point, we should do a separate conversation just about the architecture of the theaters that you've been in.
Oh yeah.
But wow. Okay,
this is separate pod.
We could talk about this forever. I mean,
oh yeah.
This is.
I'm such a theater nerd.
Bobbie, thank you for sitting down with me. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap on up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Let me think about this. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's it.
We hit it all.
We did. I think so.
Very good.
I'll send you voice memos later.
Yes, send me.
Get this part back, actually.
Yes.
Forgot this.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the audio quality gets really shitty for a minute. And I'm like, what is up with this? Voice memo.
Another Amber Alert while it's flooding.
Right. My doorbell rings again. It'd be great.
This has been great. Thank you.
This has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bobbie. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Bobbie Pinz.
You've been listening to Entertainment X, the podcast. You can follow Entertainment X on Instagram at _EntertainmentX_. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join Clay next week for another curiosity conversation on Entertainment X. Thank you for listening.